Cameron, hello. Thanks for joining us on These Lads Are Mental. We know you've got a flight in a couple of hours, so Gary and I do tend to go on a bit, so we'll try and keep it brief
No,
tonight.
that's all right. You're going to find out pretty quickly that I tend to go on a bit.
Where are you in the world?
I'm in Los Angeles. We just finished a tour. We did an American tour, and we just finished 2 days ago in Los Angeles after some Californian shows. And then I spent a couple of days doing some meetings and playing some golf with my mates. And then gotta go back to Perth today. We're gonna fly
What's your handicap, Cameron?
I'm playing off a 1 right now.
Are you? Oh, you're a proper golfer.
Yeah, I played competitively when I was a kid.
And then I was going to say that.
I didn't play for a really long time, and then I sort of got back into it about 6 years ago, and then it's become a huge part of my life again, which is great. Yeah, I played competitively up until I was probably 21, and I was going to go to college to play golf and be a pro golfer in that.
I was going to say, I think often with golf, people who are good at it as an adult, that you sort of had to play it as you were younger. Obviously,
yeah. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's recently got into it. It was like a group of friends that I play with. He goes, I want to get into it, and he's become obsessed with it. And he's like a very clever guy who works in property finance and stuff in New York, and he's a very smart guy, very alpha guy. And he's like, how long do you reckon you think it's going to take me? And he said, what's golf like? And I was like, golf is like learning a language. And if you did it when you were a kid, it makes sense to you. The movements make sense to you because you're like just knowing where to apply force and where to apply balance and things like that. And if you did that from when you were 12, 13, 14, it makes a lot more sense. If you learn a language when you're 8, 9, 10, or younger, you can speak it. Whereas this is just like learning a language. He goes, what do you mean? I go, you're going to be so bad for about a year. And then you get it. And then when you start to build your understanding, then it makes it easier for you to make self-adjustments and things like that. The same thing with learning a language. And anything short of, they say the best way to learn a language is by living in the place. Anything short of playing 5 days a week, you're going to struggle for a couple of years. It just takes, it's just reps for golf.
My brother-in-law, he played off, I believe he was close to scratching. He was a good golfer. I'm not going to say he's exactly that good, but then had a family, settled down, didn't play as regularly, like 4 or 5 days a week. He used to go 4 or 5 days a week. And then he went back. He described it as rubbish. It was probably good by my standards, but I was rubbish, like terrible. He said it took him like ages to get back into it, unless you're doing those 4 to 5 days a week. So tricky,
well,
man.
It's like a touch thing. Like you've got to learn how. Like I said, when I say applying force, like it's not even about the mechanics of it. It's knowing when to push and where to pull, and like when you're hitting uphill, when you're hitting down. It's like just little things that get them just ingrained into you when you're playing all the time. It's kind of the same as any repetitive motion, but golf in particular, I get frustrated when I have time off and I go back because you've obviously got this expectation now of how good you can play. And then all of a sudden everything feels like foreign. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What's the best course you played, just quickly?
Oh, my favorite course in the world is a place called Fisher's Island. It's just off Connecticut. It's it's actually the top 100 golf courses got re-ranked this morning. I think it's number 12 or something like that. 12 best course on the planet. That's my favorite course in the world. So it's in between where Montauk is. In Connecticut, it's a little strip of island, and most of the holes are on the water. There's only, you'll only ever see about 5 or 6 people out there. It's very amazing. It's a special place. Yeah. Actually, in the Golfers Journal, the last issue they put out, they did a special on Fisher's Island, and it's still Seth Rayner course. Unbelievable. But I played some great ones on this trip. I played Olympic in San Francisco. I played Bel Air Country Club yesterday. I played Riviera the day before that. Austin Country Club I played when I was in Austin, which was mad.
Is there no issue? And this is maybe not a daft question, I hope. Is it no issues getting into golf clubs? Because often it's quite tricky getting into golf clubs, like decent ones.
Yeah, I've over the last 5 years built up a lot of good friends. I've got a lot of good friends in golf, and since I've started the Fade, which is like my version of it's like a sports media company, I get to know a lot of people in golf. I started writing about golf again in the same way, like how I find it benefits my life. And I feel like there's so much about the game that can help people. So I started writing about golf, and then you meet this person and that person. Hey, why don't you come play with me at this place? And then you get to know, I'm also a member at this place here as well. And I've just actually rejoined the Royal Perth Golf Club in Perth, which was my home track when I was a kid. So I didn't play. I wasn't a member there for 20 years. And I went back there like for 100th year anniversary. I think it was 100th year. And I went back and played golf with the now president, who was like the head of the junior committee back then. And they had this book, and then I was actually in one of the pictures in the book. from the centenary thing because when I played there when I was a junior.
Yeah.
And they said, why don't you just rejoin? So they just sort of reactivated my membership the other day. So I'm still now officially back as a member of the Royal Perth Golf Club. It's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Have you
That's good.
ever done the "Do you know who I am" cards? Does that ever work?
No, no. That's the coolest thing about golf is it's like a big meritocracy. I get more games of golf, not because people of my limited notoriety through music. It's more. Have you met that guy Cam Avery? He's in a band thing, but he's like a +1 handicap. Get him, bring him. So it's like I get more. It's almost like it happens this way. Like I get sometimes some people want to play golf with me because of the band thing, but like I get more since I've started playing golf. People go like, oh, "Cam is actually quite good. We should
He's
get
decent.
him." Yeah.
It's just the opposite of me. Don't bring guys. He's absolutely shit. I'm
Oh, that happened with me with tennis. Though. Don't feel bad. I remember like I had a social tennis game that I used to play with my friends. I'm awful at tennis. I'm such a shit tennis player. And I remember one guy I'd seen on the street. I was like, and one guy had said, "Oh yeah, we're not playing tennis this week." And I was like, "Oh, bummer, next week." And then the other guy, I ran into another friend, and they said, "What are you doing this week?" I was like, "I'm actually playing golf with such and such." And I went, "Let's go." The other guy was like, "Have I been uninvited from my fucking tennis game?" He's like, he pauses and he's just so shit, man. You slow the game down. Because golf, you can kind of be shit and have a great time because that's what handicaps are for, and you can pick up the ball. And whereas it's
hard though,
tennis, you need to be like
you need to be good.
skill level.
You're on it constantly. There's no hiding.
If you go and play with someone, who just sucks, like you just pipping balls past me, I'm whacking them over your head. You know,
you don't get a rally, get nothing. It's just self point.
That's the same though. Is that not the same with golf? I used to play pitch and putt a lot in Ireland when I was a kid, and then I hadn't played like in the 14 years I've been to Australia. I think I played once, and then a mutual friend of ours, Todd, asked me to come play around. I was like, yeah, sure. Like I'll dust off the cobwebs. Yeah. And then an hour or two before, he's, oh, just by the way, it's a corporate event and there's like prize money for the winners. I was like, what? What the fuck? So I was in a team of 4, and then I don't know why, because I was the new guy. They were like, okay, Neil, you'll tee off. I think no practice swing, right? Now practice swing. Now I was decent enough back in the day, pitch and putt. So I got up, put the ball on the tee, swung once, straight into the bush, scuffed it into the bush. And then the guys were like, oh, it's all good, mate. It's all good, mate. Go again. Put the ball down again. Second tee. Went again. Straight into the bush again. That was like the first hole of the first course. I was like,
I did that with some record label guys, but the other way around. Where look, how I got back into golf was quite funny. My next door neighbor, I was going through a really tough time in my life, and I was just drinking a lot. It was just like a really hectic time in my life. And he came into my house. He's my neighbor. He's a really big film director. He made a bunch of, he made like Something About Mary, Me, Myself, and Irene. And he's a really successful filmmaker. I knew he played golf, and then he comes into my room and he's, hey, Cammy, he's from Rhode Island. You know, Cammy, if you're going to drink all day, you might as well do it on the golf course. And so he took me to this like skins game, and I was dressed pretty much like this, just like a blue sweater and like literally like Supergas and jeans and a baseball cap. And I shot like 74 and won like $280 in the skins game. And these guys are like, who the fuck are you? So I was like, I just moved to this town called Ojai in northern, sort of just north of LA, about an hour and a half. And Pete was like, I didn't know you could play golf like that. I was like, oh, I don't really advertise it. And I haven't really played in 10 years. And then so he invited me to the Bill Murray Celebrity.
Oh, wow.
And so I got in Florida. So they flew me over there. Again, I was just off the rails is a bit much, but I was definitely like caning it at the time. I remember like so Bill Murray's flying me out there, and I got so drunk at the pre-party that I missed my tea time with Bill Murray. But then I met a whole bunch of people at that event, like who are now like lifelong friends, and they were the ones who were like, why don't you come play golf with me in Chicago when you're there, and why don't you come to and like my friend Greg and my friend Maddie, like the guys who I met at that event introduced me to a lot of golfers, and it helped me up, right? And that's why I started writing about golf, because golf in general. So when I got back after this celebrity golf tournament thing, I started playing by myself again. So I go like at dusk and just go and play 9 holes at 4 o'clock. And so you think about it, I'm out there for 2 hours by yourself. And golf is about planning. Golf is about execution. Golf's about managing expectations. You can't do anything. There's a saying in golf, it's dance with the girl that you brought. You know, if you're hitting like a little hard cut, why are you trying to hit like loopy draws, you know? Yeah. Play with what you've got, and that's a week to week thing as you get better. And so I started writing about golf in that way, how incremental change and accountability became massive things, and it helped me in my life. So that's why I started writing about it, and that's when I started that sports publication.
cathartic process though, isn't it? Because because it is really down to you, right? And it's that you're a long time on the grass walking around. It's like good in terms of the exercise piece, but can it be a lonely place? Is it a good place to go and escape, or is it
So
social?
for me,
What does golf mean to you?
it's two things. There's, like yesterday, I was at Ballet Country Club. We didn't even make around 18, having a few like beers and playing a money game with my friend, which is it's literally I've said that to where I played at Ballet Country Club yesterday. I'm not a member there, but I know a lot of the membership there. And someone asked me 2 weeks ago, they're like, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? And I was like, the veranda at Ballet Country Club on a Friday afternoon is like the best place I've ever. It's the greatest hang in golf. It's amazing. But the solo golf thing, I find it incredibly. What I get, I think, the most from golf in this way is the music is not very tangible. There's no winning or losing,
Yeah.
You've got this like thing where you sort of, mining the back of your experiences in some cases, or like creating these melodies or beats or whatever, or if you're a painter, however way, like art is very just existential, There's nothing really like that you can grab a hold. There's no winning and losing. And me growing up as an athlete, I kind of need that in my life a little bit. Like I need to. It frustrates some people who I play music with because it's let it go and like just do it. And I'm just like, no, I need to finish things, and I need to. I'm extremely outcome based, which makes me good at learning songs. And like I'm extremely goal oriented. I can't go into a thing where I don't know what we're trying to do here. Which is music,
Yeah.
So golf, adversely, I used to love playing by myself before I started playing competitively again. Was like just the how well did I play yesterday? It's about breathing. It got a lot to do with rhythm, and got a lot to do with balance. And like I said, you can't just smash the ball. You've got to try and create finesse shots sometimes. And so those 2 hours I would get by myself. I'm not talking to anyone, and I'm also not thinking about. I was going through a really bad time in my life, like experiential, like personally, and all of a sudden I wasn't thinking about that anymore. Because you can't. You have no idea. You've got this time in between golf shots. That's why it's the hardest mental game in the world for me. As far as you've got so much time to think. In tennis, someone's hitting the ball back at you, or in chess, someone's making a move and you're making counter moves. In golf, you're just staring yourself in the face. Like, well, I can't. Why? What? How am I going to do this? How am I going to get better at this? And so I think that sort of golf became very aspirationally geared for me, whereas it becomes a process. I think one of the first articles I wrote for the Fade was a game of millimeters. And I was talking about how just focusing on 1%ers and incremental changes is how you become better. And I think I compared it to motor racing as well. I watched a lot of racing, and if you want to beat someone by 6 seconds in a Formula One race, you've got to beat them by thousandths of seconds.
Yeah.
Every corner, every braking zone. And so everyone's, what's a thousandth of a second? Or if I add them all up. So I know it's a very obvious analogy, but that's what golf became for me. It's like this sort of way of slowly improving and wanting to get better in my life and wanting to get better in mentally, wanting to get better. Golf became sort of a vehicle for that, if that makes sense.
To your question, Sully, as well, though, I think when you ask them if it's a lonely place, I think there's a big difference between being lonely and being alone. And I think golf is definitely one of those things where you're alone, but there's a bit of serenity in that as well. And like you said, it's a bit of an inward process. As you said, everyone's going to go through it a different way, but it doesn't have to be golf. But people like to be alone. Not a lot of people like to be lonely, but when alone, it tends to when the magic happens.
Competitive golf, I like being alone in that sense of golf sometimes. Competitive golf is extremely lonely. Some of my best friends, the best golfers, some of my really close friends are some of the best golfers in the world. And it's become a bit more of there's like cliquey gangs and boys and it's become a little more friendly on tour, I think, as the money's going up in golf in the last decade. But man, I used to have friends call me, I'm like, how's it going out there? If they're on the road European tour, and he's like, just so lonely, man. He's like, we're not out here. No one's friends out here. They're just like, we're your friends, but they still want to step on each other's necks every week. Golfers are mentally the toughest guys I've ever met. It's, 16 hours or more, 20 hours, it's 72 holes over 4 days. Keeping like they're making that course as hard as you can. And there's other guys who are playing that well. It's just like this. Yeah. And like I said, it's like life in that way. Like it's a mirror of life because you've got so much time to make decisions. Like no one's hitting the ball back at you.
I was just thinking there when you were talking, like if you play tennis sometimes and someone serves you and they serve you like a massive serve, and you don't even think about it. Your arm just goes and hits the ball back, and you hit this like amazing return, and you're going, "Whoa, how did that happen?" Or Gary and I are both soccer men. Like sometimes when you don't think about it, you nail it. Whereas if you get a penalty and you have to wait for a while, people often bottle it, which is interesting. But when you were talking about that golf, it was reminding me of like dentists. And is there, when it comes to golf, because there's so much precision involved in it, right? And it's for a long time. As you were saying, hours and time between shots and specific shots and focusing on the tiny ball and itself into a tiny hole, and you've got to do that repeatedly. It must be quite intense on your nervous system. And I was thinking of a dentist with this, and bear with me.
I'm wondering where I go with this.
Here I go. It's only 11 a.m. Dentists have the highest rate of alcoholism and drug taking and things like that out of professions because they're working in a tiny space like someone's mouth, but at a tiny minutia, constantly all day, loud noise, bright lights. And not to paint every golfer with a brush, and I know it's gone so professional these days, but there is quite a lot of boozy types, right, on the golf side.
There was like a few. Everyone's quite militant. I would say in the top 10, there's a few guys who love having a drink. It used to be in the like early 2000s when I caddied on the PGA Tour a little bit when I was like 16, 17. Everyone definitely loved to drink because, yeah, and I guess I can relate to that too. And it's hard to. I have that as a pressure release. Like I don't drink that much ever really, but this week at the end of this tour, which has felt like very jam-packed, and like I feel like I need to let the valve out sometimes. Like I had a couple of boozy nights with the boys a couple of nights ago. But I think I would agree with you in that sense that you're working in this quite I don't want to say sterile, but golf isn't like a physical sport where it's action-packed. You've got so much time to, like I said, stare yourself in the face. That, yeah, I can imagine that led to a lot of people boozing after the rounds. Yeah. But now golf these days, especially at the highest level, those guys are like they're pretty, that's the biggest change in golf. Tiger Woods changed everything. They're like professional, they're athletes now.
I was just going to say that I'm a strength and conditioning coach, and coming through, like growing up when I was studying and stuff like that, didn't really know many people in the golf scene, what in S&C. But then in the last 15 years, like so many of my mates, people I know, are now like golf specialists, S&C, and working with golfers all the time. That wasn't even a niche at that point.
My friend Leo he's the CEO of a company here called Over Golf Performance, and it's just a gym, literally they have the driving ranges where you can get your golf clubs fit, you can have lessons, but right outside those simulator ranges, they've got like strength and conditioning coaches and golf specific stuff. Like there's a full gym for golf specific stuff. Like there's a few guys who are really amazing at it on the PGA Tour who are like strength and conditioning coaches. For UGP, I know. I think Minwoo Lee does, and Colin Morikawa work with UGP, which is like where they have specific. And I've started doing it. I use, I know you would know as a strength and conditioning coach, I use that thing called the 3D strap.
Yep.
Which is what you put around your body, and I work on my internal rotation, my left and right legs. Sometimes it gets a bit. But I've just got really weak glutes, which leads to having a bad back. So I'm trying to strengthen all that area. But now there's so much that those guys are prepared now. Like it used to be. It used to be there was a lot more cowboys out on the PGA Tour 20 years ago than there is today.
You talk about that fraction, that millimeters. That's this went to, hasn't it? I always mention Djokovic talk about this in tennis. He's everyone's got a good forehand, everyone's got a good backhand. He was talking more the mental side. He's usually people who get to the elite is the mental side, and obviously golf's the same. But because golf didn't really have the S&C component, people who started doing that were getting an edge. It's like people feel, oh, I need to do that now because there's an edge somewhere. And now
look at Tiger. Look at Rory changed his body completely over the last 6 years, 7 years. Rory
He's shredded. He's absolutely shredded these days. And he didn't get the green jacket, and there was all that pressure. Even though he was absolutely class golfer, there was always that question of, he bottles it, at the big occasion. But he's kind of largely overcome that now. But you can even see with him, someone who's had an unbelievable career, how much it meant to him to finally get that monkey off his back. And then the Ryder Cup, you could see, it felt like for me, he was letting out all this. I don't know, anger is the right word, but all this frustration of his whole career. And it was crazy what went on the Ryder Cup. And
you think about it, if you win the 3 other majors and then you have a 10-year gap between winning the last one and coming so close so many times, the pressure release was one of the most amazing golf tournaments I've seen, especially to go up against Rosie in those last few holes. Great. But yeah, I mean, he's completely changed his body. But it all started with Tiger. Look at Tiger in 2001, 2002, up into 2005, compared to everybody else.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
obviously you've alluded to the fact that golf played a bit of a role in from a mental aspect. It'd be good to get some background on. Obviously, you're from Australia. Maybe your background from a personal standpoint, and maybe a bit of a journey on where you've been to where you are now.
yeah. So it's basically like when I stopped playing golf competitively. That was when I had a scholarship. I was going to come and try and play golf at UNLV or Alabama.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Fremantle. My dad drove the Rottnest Ferry, and then grew up in South Perth after that. I moved around a lot when we were kids. But as I got older, I think it was at my school, and there was a guy called Ben. He got me into golf. He said, "Does anyone want to try golf?" And I played t-ball and baseball my whole life, and he was like, "Have you ever done this before?" And I sort of had a knack for it, so I got put into a golf school, like when I was like 13, 14, and did that all the way up until I was like 20. And I was consumed by it. And my mentor was Brett Rumford, who was the best golfer in Australia at the time, other than maybe Adam Scott or Stuart Appleby, Robert Allenby. And he sort of taught me what life was about and how to win on the golf course and that's why I think golf has a lot to do with life. The lessons he taught me about like hard work, like how much hard work pays off in the long run, became really ingrained in me. But then I guess as I got older, it was like, I started playing music. I was pretty naturally gifted at music. And and I think golf was probably not as cool as it is now, but music, all of a sudden I started like having a few nights out after gigs and stuff like that. And I was like, and like you said, and all of a sudden you feel, I was a bit of a nerdy kid, and then all of a sudden you feel popular and cool because you can do this thing that girls think is cool, for starters, let's be honest. And then all of a sudden you're drinking beers and smoking cigarettes. And it was like, and I just remember that it was like, there was this 36-hole golf tournament, like a medal event at Melville Glades, and then, or I could fuck that off and go and watch Oasis. This is like 2000, it would have been like 2009 or maybe 2008. Like this is before they broke up.
Yeah.
And I went to the Oasis gig and was kind of just, I think I want to do that. I think that's right. And I wasn't, but I don't think I was willing to admit it to myself. Like at the time I was like, oh no, I'm still going to play golf and things like that. And then when it really came down to it, and in hindsight, I don't know if back then I had the edge, that mental edge that I know you need to have. You need to have this crazy preparedness and crazy competitiveness that, like, I love hitting shots and I love competing and I love playing, but I think you really needed to have, it's like the difference between Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth's a winner when he was younger, the youngest person to win the Masters, and went on a run straight out of college at UT, but they're University of Texas coach. But like Scotty Scheffler was always going to be better in the long run because of what he had between years. Yeah. So coming back to what I was saying is like, I found that I wanted to make things. Like, I feel like I wanted to build things, not win things. I never got, if I won something, I'd be like, oh, cool, whatever. Whereas winning is everything to them. Whereas I kind of got this thing where it's like, if I'm writing songs or creating albums or whatever I'm doing creatively, that's there forever and it's mine forever. You know what I mean? It's not about winning or losing, which sort of can fuck you a little bit as well, because you've got to try and, I think I started to ignore the competitive side of myself a bit too much, and so just go with it, which is great. But it can have, now I'm trying to get back that sort of competitive edge in my life, just goal oriented thing in my life. And then and I started playing bands all the time. It's hard when people ask, my son wants to be a musician, what do you recommend he does? And I was like, I just did it every day. Every day I would just sit and play every day, and I'd play gigs 3 times a week. And I was delusional in thinking that I was going to be like in a big rock and roll band. I'm very fortunate that it worked out for me. And I met the Tame Impala guys when I did. Because then I met the Tame Impala guys and I joined a band called Pond. I already had, my band was sort of coming up. And
what was your band?
My band was called The Growl. And it was probably 2006, 2007. It was very much like, my solo stuff was very much Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, or like Tom Waits, or like Leonard Cohen.
I listened to a few. I did listen to a few songs when the heads were coming on.
Yeah, my solo stuff's a bit more. It's very different from Tame Impala. I like folk music, country music. I love that, like old Americana. But when my band was kind of coming up, and then Kevin and I had met. Actually, it's funny. Kevin Parker's wife, her cousin was the golf pro at Royal Perth Golf Club. And then so we sometimes would cross paths, me and Sophie, Kevin's wife and now wife. She went to high school with Kevin, and I think they were dating at the time. But she said to me, she was like, "What are you doing on the weekend?" And I was like, "She's like, do you still play music?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." But I'm still focused on golf. And then she said, "Why don't you come and to this EP launch? It's a band called Tame Impala with my friend who I went to school with. You guys would probably really get on." And we became friends. And then within a couple of years, me and Kevin moved in together in this place in Subiaco. I was recording this album for The Growl. He was doing, I think, his second record. But yeah, he was doing Lonerism. We had this house, and with that in the back of that album cover, it's Kevin lying on the ground. That was like this studio that he built in the front of the house, and I was recording my Growl album. Then my Growl album came out, and Lonerism came out, and then I opened for Tame Impala in America with The Growl with my group of boys. And then halfway through that tour, he was like, "I need you to be in Tame Impala." So that's how that all kind of happened. So I've known everyone I've known in the band since I was about 18 years old.
Okay.
17 years old. Yeah.
And then I had a question. Just while you were rising up the musical ranks, was golf still ever present, or did it kind of go completely on the back burner as you went down the musical route, or did you kind of
Yeah, it wasn't very cool to play golf. Like I've like you guys are just like, I'm very much, if I'm doing something, I'm doing it like, yeah. So then I just sort of just was like in the life. I was living with a bunch of musicians in a share house, and was just, I'd wake up every day. I was working I did bricklaying on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then worked in pubs on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Whether I was like playing gigs, I just completely immersed myself in that. So I didn't really have much time for golf. And I think the regimented thing, I wish I'd stuck with it more, but I think the regimented thing about golf, I think what I liked about when I became a musician, that it was very much go with it. And I was very like, yeah.
I was asking this, someone asked me this question the other day about business going, that old kind of $1 million question of, do you quit your job and just focus on it? Because if you do quit your job and your back's against the wall, you're going to really immerse yourself in it, right? So there's an argument for that. And then there's also an argument going, yeah, but if you've got a family or kids, you got to put money on the table.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, it depends if you don't have dependents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 20. There's a really good book called Range written by David Epstein. It's about this. It's about raising kids, but it's also about changing your career and your life. And you have to be, I think, risk averse. If it's like now, I'm still playing music and I'm going to play music for the rest of my life, but I think I'd love to build this sports media company. And I'm fairly free to do it. I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. I can immerse myself in that without completely neglecting music. But if you've got a level of dependence, you have to weigh up the risk averse decisions that you have to be more risk averse in the decisions that you're making. But when I was, 19 years old and I was going to go to college and play golf, my grades were fucking shit anyway. And then, but I was like, and I just found this group of guys even before I was in any of the pond or Tame Impala, I found this group of guys, and I had that band called The Growl with my friends Mark and James and Clint, and there was my band, and I just sort of felt this like deep, like belief in that I could do that. And you could call it blind faith, because I was 19 years old and I had nothing else I didn't have anything to lose, And I had friends who were like, "Oh, I'm going to go to university, get my university degree, and then try some music stuff." I'm like, "You can't. It's not a fucking part-time job."
Yeah.
Music. It's not. And people who think they can do something else and do music, you've got to really be like, immerse yourself in it.
But to the two things you've picked up, that obviously golf and music, there is a bit of alignment there in terms of, like you said, you can't half-ass golf if you want to be good at it. You can't half-ass music if you want to be good at it. You could argue that for everything, but I do think individual sports or a competitive industry like music, probably more so now than ever, so it's a bit much easier to be seen with YouTube and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Media. But from a psychological perspective, obviously you've gravitated towards those two things, whether it be because your skill sets have landed there, or subconsciously or consciously, you are just built that way to focus on one, like that.
I think it's very much like on that, and everyone thinks they're fucking ADD these days, but I think very much I'm on that like ADHD spectrum, where it like one of my partners used to call me Captain Extreme, and even like my friend, I got into cycling, I've been riding, so I got into road cycling about a year ago.
Oh, there you go. Sorry to interrupt. That's another thing. The exact same. Yeah. Cycling, golf. Music.
Yeah. My friend said to me, he said, "I've been watching your fucking Strava, man. Of course you're going to get this good at cycling." He said, And I was like, he's like, why is that? I was like, because I know how to train. And I think that's what golf taught me is I know how to practice for something.
Yeah.
I know how to break down, whether it's movement or I know how to like break cycling. And this is no shade to any of my cycling fans out there. It's a bit more meat headed.
Yeah.
Like you know, there's not a lot of skill involved until you get into the sprinting.
Yeah.
I think what I get obsessed with is the process. And that's why maybe I wasn't going to be the best competitive golfer, but I'm obsessed with refining processes. And that's what really gets me fucking going. There's no way you can play a perfect game of golf, but you can make the perfect practice routine, which makes you the most prepared person. The same thing goes with music. And so if I'm trying to learn something on bass, I'll play it at all different tempos. I'll play it in different places on the neck, or I'll play on another instrument just to get a better understanding of the song. And I have the ability to recall stuff really easily. That's what made me a good musician. But the same thing with golf. Like I know how to grind a movement in my swing. I know when I'm practicing, I know how to be very intentional about what I'm doing. And the same thing with cycling. I was like, all right, I think I was riding about 350 Ks a week at the height of my obsession. But coming back to what I was saying, my friend who got me into cycling was like, of course you're going to get this good. He's like, when you do something, you don't do it in halves, and it comes back to that mental, whether it's mental illness or when people try to say that ADHD is a crutch, I'm like, it's a
strength. I think it's a strength. I think that's a strength, mate. To be.
I say most business owners, entrepreneurs, things like that have ADHD. Anyone that I know that has their own business or is creative has ADHD. Literally, it's a gift. It means that maybe you think differently, and sometimes dealing with ADHD, because I'm on the other side, I think my wife was ADHD. It's hard to because communication can be difficult sometimes, or pinning them down. But that's the beauty of them, that they don't think so much about the repercussions. Like, dude, this is going to happen. You're worrying about something that's not even happening. Whereas,
much what we were talking about before. Like I never thought about failing ever in music. Again, never even occurred to me. Just like Scar, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
The 3 Ps there when you were talking that relate, definitely from a golf and musical point of view, that patience, precision, persistence. Like, if you think about planning is the other one as well, actually, a few Ps in there.
The 4 Ps.
With music, you got to plan, you got to be precise, and you got to have patience, which is kind of the same with golf, right?
Yeah.
Cycling, maybe patience is probably the other thing. Or
cycling has got this thing where, you've got to do zone 2. So I figured that out. Like I figured out I would do on Mondays, I would do a long ride, like 140 Ks, but keep my heart rate between. I got a Garmin thing, like, especially when I got into running last year as well. I've got like a crappy little like Forerunner 125 or whatever it is. I bought it from someone, can't remember what it, but it was like, and a heart rate monitor. So I found out that the zone 2 stuff, the more, if I do majority of my volume in zone 2 and just letting those mitochondria strengthen, I got so much fit. And then
you get ridiculously fit on that.
Twice a week I would cane it with my friends, like the way like, because
you're not able to cane it without that zone 2 stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go hard. A lot of people try and do that every single time, and then they can't.
And you have burnout, and it's the same thing as life as well. Like you've got to find something. It's like when my friends are I've got all the guys in Tame Impala into incline walking, so running, and they call me PT Cam. Like that's like the truth, because they're not those kind of guys. And I'll like, get on that treadmill, and I want you to walk up it on level 15, speed 3 for 30 minutes, and then we'll do some weights. He's like, man, this is burning the same amount of calories as running. I was like, and you won't have sore knees, and you can do it tomorrow. If you can do it again tomorrow, and that's what I liked about the zone 2 training, was great. And trying to find something that you can just do every day, that's the whole point. It's not about, like, I know guys who cycle and they just twice a week. They're absolutely like, there's some of the fastest cyclists some of the best cyclists I've ever met in my life all live in Perth. Like they're it's the fastest group ride on the planet is the Puffers race. You guys are averaging 48 kilometers an hour for 85 Ks. They're absolute beasts. Like Jai Hindley, I think there's a Boxing Day race they have every year. Jai Hindley last year and nearly got dropped by one of the guys from Perth. It's so quick. But then so people see that and they're like, oh, I'm going to just go hard and do it. They absolutely smash it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And they wonder why they plateau. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's that thing.
Yeah, in fairness, with Gary's work with soccer, and even soccer has changed a lot with how you train, how you get fit, especially at a kind of semi-pro level, where Gary and I knew each other, where if you wanted to get fit back in the old days, you just go out and you'd smash a 10K. But Gary's
Yeah.
been talking a lot about that gradual getting back to fitness and planning and things like that, which is now infiltrating below the professional point of view. But it makes sense, whereas in the old days, it was just get out there, run, pound the pavement. And I've osteoarthritis now as a 41-year-old. It's all starting to catch up because that's how I was reared.
Do you guys both play football?
Yeah.
What are your teams? One of you got to be Celtics, Rangers.
I'm a Celtic fan.
I'm going to say I could see
the
that
Irish
version.
Celtic, the Shamrock
Rovers,
my team.
They're two
Ireland's
great
most.
teams though. They're like classic teams.
Aye,
One of my good mates is a EPL. He's an agent, and he said that the biggest thing they try to do is even from age 13 onwards is injury prevention these days. Is the biggest thing is strengthening the ligaments around the knees and the ankles.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst thing can happen is you have a young kid who's got weak knees and weak ankles and he gets up to 13, 14, 15, 16 years old and has an injury and he can never get back.
Well, that's the growth spurt phase, mate. So that's, again, you got to talk about the old school mentality or the kind of go hard all the time. You get a lot of coaches who are maybe a bit older mentality, so when they came through, they went hard all the time. So they obviously then coach kids at that age and think, when I was your age, I just went hard all the time. But biologically, a lot of these kids, like for me, for instance, when I was 13, I wasn't necessarily tall, but at the time I was 14, I was like nearly 6 foot. And you get kids who are maybe 12 chronologically in terms of their age, but biologically they're 16. They've got armpit hair and their voice is broken and they can't be trained the same way because their body's developed completely different. And if they're all getting hammered, the joints, tendons, ligaments, etc., it can delay 2 or 3 years of training. And like you've alluded to already with the music and the golf, and it's about reps. If you're not getting the reps in during probably one of the most important developmental years in your life, the time you get to senior football, you've lost 2 or 3 years of development, and it's tricky, and it's all about reps. That's the thing I was talking to you still about. I spoke to Neil recently about an idea I've been sort of like talking a lot about in terms of the art of doing too much. I think in 2025, everyone seems to have multiple projects going on. They've always got like I do this, but I also do a bit of this, and it doesn't have to be work related. It may be a business plus they play tennis, and then they do fitness stuff, and then they've got a side hustle, and they've got loads of things going on. But I think that gets pushed in modern day society of people feel guilty about not doing too much. Then maybe that's why people think ADHD, then if it's social media and they're distracted. But for me, I do think there's definitely the people who are successful tend to have a lot of this stuff going on, but they've got the art of doing it all down, because the things they do is important to them, and the things they do, they do it properly. They're not just picking projects randomly and getting distracted by thing.
I've been doing that. This is one thing where I've been trying to make my goals, put them further away.
Yep.
So instead of going, it's like now, whatever my body comp is right now, it's X amount of body fat. I was like, I want to get to that way, but I want to do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
And then, because that way I'm not going to try and go too quick, because every time I go too quick, I hurt my lower back because I haven't got a strong enough core. So instead of just, like I said, smashing, I'm trying to do these like days where it's literally go into the gym and do just injury prevention stuff around my lower back and hips and hip mobility and things like that. Because that's the biggest one is I always try and I've noticed that in my whole life is I go too hard, too fast.
Yeah.
And then it's fake it till you break it, So I tried
it's a big thing. I talk about it all the time in wellness. We were at the Melbourne Marathon a few weeks ago, and it's a big issue in running as well, where in modern society it is changing a little bit, but like recovery and slowing down is not prioritized enough by athletes at all levels. And especially for blokes, right? You get an hour free, like, oh, I'll go to the gym and I'll smash it. But like going to the gym and doing mobility sessions or having a sauna or going for meditation or going for
about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
About 2 months ago, I had a 310K weekend, right? A week of cycling. I think I did, 190 during the week, and then I did a 120K ride on Saturday up through the hills in Perth with one of my mates who's a really good cyclist. So I'm trying to keep up with him. And they're like basically two little fit 22-year-olds who like work in bike shops, and they're just absolute weapons. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep up with you. So I go out with them. I had a great time. It's one of my favorite things. That's what I like about cycling. I don't really like the bunch sprint stuff, but I do love like going out with 4 mates through 120, 150 Ks, like out in the middle of nowhere, and then coming back and sharing the load, pushing for each other and pulling for each other. But I'd done that, and then I was feeling good, feeling really strong. I think I was down to about like 7% body fat. I was like, yeah, this is riding so much, going to the gym like 2-3 times a week, and then I was on my way to my mom's house for dinner on a Sunday. I was like, oh, I'll just pop in the gym and do a bit of weight. So obviously your body on this thing, on like your Garmin and that, It tells you your stress level, your training. What I don't know what that thing's called. It's like your training stress level.
Yeah.
Your nervous system just kind of going like,
same.
your nervous system just going like, and then like,
Nice.
I'm going like feeling so good and strong that week because I was like smashing with the cycling, and then just was like, you know what, I'll do a fucking deadlift. And I've just gone and just done this one deadlift and just felt this in my lower back.
I know
And
that.
it's not much. It just sort of feels like it goes like that. And then by the next morning, I couldn't stand up. And my whole body, my whole right hand side of my back had spasmed. I couldn't stand up straight. Kept me off the bike, kept me out of the gym for 2.5 weeks. Obviously, couldn't hit a fucking golf ball. So I was like, it's like the biggest example of trying to do too much too, you know.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds
And I
very
think I'll just
similar.
pop in the gym and do a fucking,
The hardest
like
central
that.
nervous system lift there is. I'll just do that.
Yeah,
I've done that. Here's a funny story. I've done that a few times as well, Cam. Literally exactly as you said. On my honeymoon, we were in Port Douglas with. It was kind of like I had a honeymoon with my mates. It sounds a bit weird, I know, but all my Irish mates came over, and before they went back, we did Port Douglas, and we were in the gym, and I was like, "Oh, the gym, you know, look good, be on the beach," and I pulled my back. I also did it in Rays in Watergoes up in Byron Bay. I took my wife
Yeah.
there for her birthday once, plush room and all that kind of stuff, and I was in my robe doing the workout in the apartment or in the hotel room, pulled my back again, and then you're like in this hotel and I can't even move, which is, you know, not ideal. One other side story, going back to pushing yourself too hard. When I was about 16, I was trying to make it like as a soccer player, and I was playing for this club and I was trying to get in the first team. And back then, being injured was linked to being weak, you know, and
Yeah.
I was playing on all the school teams. I was playing, you know, multiple sports. I was captain of my school hurling team. And then I'd play with my club at night time and on the weekends. And we were training and my hammy was tight. And I said to the first team coach, "Oh, you know, my hammy was tight." And he was like, "Oh, you fucking, you know, you pussy, get in there and fuck it. You want
Yeah.
to play at the weekend. Just shut up and fucking get on with it." And we were doing like preseason. It was running up these mountain hills and he literally forced me to train with a hamstring. I ended up rupturing my hamstring, and even to this day, there's just like a gap in my hamstring with a huge ball. And every time I go to a sports phys or something like that, they're like, "Oh, what happened to your thing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's because that fucking coach when I was 16 forced me to run." And Gary will tell you I'm not fast because I'm missing a fucking hamstring.
But being like preparedness is the biggest thing. It's like we've been the last 2 weeks. I've been trying. It's just hard sometimes because you're getting to bed at, you know, we get off stage at 11 o'clock at night, and then so you can't really wind down until 1 a.m. And I've turned myself into a bit of an early riser. So it's been good to, like I said to you before, I've still been trying to like get in and do something every day. But now I'm focusing on being hyper aware. We've been staying at these one hotels, which I love, which are amazing because they have spas in them. So get up in the morning, do some contrast therapy because I love ice baths, and sauna have changed my life. Just because I'm a terrible sleeper, and it's really good for my circadian rhythm when it resets. I try and do it once or twice a week. And so we were staying at this like one hotel in Brooklyn, and they had this sauna. And so I get up and do a sauna, and then I was like, and then I can see myself because I feel good now. I'm going to go in the gym and smash it. But then really taking a moment to go like, how am I feeling? Am I going to hurt myself again? And it's not about being overcautious, but it's about going, you know what? I did 35 pounds on this, on Monday. I've got a show later on tonight. Maybe just wind it back to 25 and that's fucking fine. That whole mentality of go hard or go home is just like literally with all the wrong things that got drummed into us, you know.
But psychologically, in terms of just talking back to the art of doing too much for you, you said you put your goals further away. So that particular session, you go, I'll pull back to 25 this week. But you know, if you fast forward to 6 months, yes, you went back to 25 maybe on that week, and maybe 2 weeks later you did something similar, or maybe 6 weeks later you did. But over the course of time, that 6 months, if you zoomed out, that was probably still gradually going up. You're probably now at 50, do you know what I mean? But it was just smaller increments. So just that's what usually happens is people will try and push it up constantly. I'm back in the gym, I need to go harder. They'll get up to that PB, but then what will happen is they'll fast forward 6 months and that PB has just plateaued, or they've had to go back again because they've actually got injured in the same place.
It's like I was doing like rotator cuff stuff because I'm trying to work on my internal rotation like this, and I couldn't explain to my friend the other night. I was got in the livest of those bands, those exercise bands. I was like, man, just go like this, doing that. He goes, I'm not doing anything. I was like, it is. I was like, hey kid, it is. It doesn't seem like, it's like when you do, sometimes you do hip mobility stuff. I'm like, this isn't working. And then a week later, all of a sudden, everything moves more. And it comes back, you know what, it was like 4 years ago, same thing with, I was running a half marathon, training for a half marathon, because all the guys in Tame Impala wanted to do it as like a team thing. I was like, this is not going to go well. And so we started training. Thankfully, like we're friends with some of the Freo Dockers, so we're running with like the Dockers, Dave Mundy and Luke McFarlane and the Zunga and stuff. And I remember I was running once with them once, and it was probably 8Ks we were doing, and I just started trying to keep up with the footy players. So now but my heart rate on my heart rate monitor was done. I'm sitting on about 182 for about 15 minutes.
Oh,
My friend was like, I don't know if that's good. So I went and got a doctor. I thought I had lung cancer. I used to smoke like 36 a day when I was in my 20s. And I was like, I've got lung cancer and I know it. So I go there and I found out I have, they saw this little white speck on the CT scan. So I went for an angio CT where they put the ink in there. And I have early onset arteriosclerosis. I have a blockage in my widowmaker. I was only like 34 when I got this. And so I read into statins. And my friend said, if you miss it one day, that's not a huge deal, but it's about, you won't have to get a stent until you're 50 as opposed to having to get one when you're 40. Okay, so that sort of geared my mind into, and that's the same reason why I take like a lot of vitamins. You see when I get up in the morning, there's 50, I have 2 statin pills, I have like ubiquinol, I have K2, D3, and I've just started getting into this like vitamins thing. Cause like, same thing is what we used to be like, oh, why do you need fucking vitamins for? You know what I mean? It's water. And it's not even about, I'm not even that old, I'm 37, but that thinking long term is something that I have to be very conscious of.
Could I ask you, Cam, it seems like you've really, like, where did that awareness come for you? Excuse me if I'm painting you with a brush with a musician. Did you go through sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then did you go down to come back up? Or was there an epitome where you were like, fuck, I need to get out of it, you know?
Yeah, what I've realized I'm doing, taking a lot of stock of myself in the last few years, is that I get to a really good place and I would backslide. And then I get to a really good place and I would backslide. And that's purely like what we're saying, from going too hard. Like even if it's like go to the gym for 6 months and I wouldn't drink and I'd get this thing and I'd get in this way. And then there was no balance in there whatsoever. So I'd find myself backsliding even worse into partying again and like doing drugs and like drinking. And then I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I really sort of focused in on, I've got to be able to let the pressure out some way. And like coming back to what I said, I was like, I have to find something. I think about this in every aspect of my life, whether it's the golf, or whether it's the fade, or whether it's my own solo career, or whether it's playing with Tame Impala, or whether it's going to the gym, or just anything I do in my life. I try to think, this needs to be high performing, but it needs to be sustainable. There's no way that I could keep redlining it for that long. And in the same sense of when you're partying, it's just like, the wheels will come off if you keep partying the way you were partying. And it's not like I went, I've got to stop drinking, I've got to stop doing drugs. I've never had a substance problem. I've never had anything like that. I think I used to call my body an occupational hazard, It's like, it's the only job in the world where they encourage you to drink and take drugs before you work. and so I like having fun, and I can be very encourageable. I'm like, let's have some fun here. But I think what happened for me was I started, but I, like you, much to your point before, I never really thought about what the consequences of those things, the immediate consequences of that was going to be. Whereas now I think a lot more long-term sustainable. I think, of course, I'd love to have a solo career, because I'm really writing some solo music again with my best friend back in Perth. I'd love to have a solo career where I'm playing sold out stadiums exactly the same as Tame Impala is doing, but I don't think I could even do that for that long. I'd love to play, a couple thousand cap theaters and play X amount of shows a year, and make that a sustainable way of playing music. And in the same sense as I've got to think, if I'm about to like scale up the fade, I have to hire the right people to do the right jobs to share the load, because otherwise it's going to be not sustainable. I was doing like a weekly newsletter and podcast by myself in the fade last year. And then I stopped, and everyone was like, why'd you stop? And I was like, I'm knackered, man. I just didn't have time. And I could see it. I could see the work was going to fall off.
Quality.
Yeah. So I think everything I think about now is this process sustainable? Is the big stuff.
And I think that is that, again, to harp on about that is the art of, I think people who do that well have got that self-awareness that, look, I'm doing a lot, and you've got the fade, you've got your golf, you've got the gym, you've got the band, obviously, you've got whatever else going on, and they're all, to most people's naked eye, they're all successful by anyone's standards. But then if you start to add something else to it, or you try and notch up a gear, you say to yourself, nah, I'm going to, something's going to give here, and having the self-awareness going, you know what, that's my cap, any more than the quality dips, and I can't afford that. So I think I think that's a common trait I see in anyone who's successful in multiple
Well,
cultures.
yeah, I try to push it. That's what a lot of my friends from an outside point of view say that to me. They're like, Cam, you've been pretty successful with your music. And I was like, yeah, but I feel like I'm always chasing like another thing. But like I said, I work actively to slow myself down because otherwise I take on too much. Because I'm like, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. I take on too much and then the wheels fall off, So I actively, I am, a friend of mine said that to me yesterday, that she was like, you've got big CEO energy, but you've got to be able to think. And it's coming down to a point now where I don't want to do anything else for myself, So that's why I'm trying to build a really good team around the Fade. I've been like, literally, that's what I've been doing in LA, is taking calls and meetings so I can help, create the best team that I need to make this company successful. And same thing with the band. It was like, it used to be very much, it's like, this is my solo artist and I'm a genius and I'm going to give you this music. Whereas I've realized, I think in the last few years, that I'm a way better collaborator than I am like a solo pursuit person. Like I want to actively give percentages of my company or whatever ideas just so we can make it a more sustainable
Collaborative thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about in terms of, because from the music industry, it'd be nice to get a hear from a psychological perspective, because I mean, there's obviously pressures with being on stage. Well, I know a lot, probably some of you probably feel that's where you're most comfortable, but then there's obviously coming from like 2006 to 7, you said, when you were the Growl, current like modern era when there's social media, criticism, positive things, more journalism, all that sort of thing. Have you found it tricky to deal with that, or you found it pretty much easy?
As far as journalism and social media, I try to stay out of the comment section. I don't really. I kind of do. I think I try to lean on the things of the integrity of what I'm trying to do. I try to go, what's going to make me feel the best? Yeah, I've adjusted quite well to you can't help it. Your mind drifts sometimes, and you think, I wonder what that person thinks about me. You got to think, what are they? Maybe I don't look as cool today, or it's hard to be when you're working as a public figure, quote unquote. But I think the easiest way to do it is, like I said, I try to stay hyper process focused. That's the thing for me. That's the thing that's helped me the most. Is, am I doing the things that I need to be doing to make this thing work? And like you said, more often than not, that's like you said, if I drop back to 25 pounds instead of 35 pounds for a fucking dumbbell curl, and it's as long as I'm sticking to a process and a plan, that I know that and consistency. So I think that's what helps me to tune out. And as far as the media stuff, I think a comedian gave me advice about that. Stay out of the comment section. Do what you have to do. Unless it's, I think I love the opinion of my peers, I think, more than I do. Because especially like with social media, I think social media, as I always say, I think Ricky Gervais said this, it's like a bathroom stall wall where someone writes like Metallica rules, and it says Metallica sucks. And then someone writes underneath that, because it's nameless. So then someone says, you suck. And then someone says, fuck you. Then someone draws a big dick, and it's, the blue flag. So like why should I give a shit what they think? It's sort of where I've come out of. If you could say anything non-consequentially to anyone on the internet or whatever. I don't take a lot of feedback. Maybe I think I'm about to hire someone for the Fade who's like a data hacker. Like someone who can like look at the metrics, because we're working primarily with men aged 18 to 45 is the magazine that I'm trying to build. You start there and you can sort of go outwards from there. And so trying to find the spaces in which those people are, and which piece of content talk to, over 30s, which piece of content talk to under 30s, things like that. I think that kind of analysis is important when you're building a business, especially into that. You're silly not to. But as far as on a personal level, I try to stay out. I try to stay out of all that stuff, and that comes down to being able to stick to your guns and continue the process.
I'm just curious in terms of talking to you. You've obviously got, I don't want to say a type A personality, but usually cyclists, runners, always are like they're happy to go inward and be in their own head. Almost that's, I know it sounds a bit sinister, but like a serial killer mentality of just, this is what I'm doing, this is my goal, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's, again, to the outside person, it's very much, I see that as like, they're going to be a high performer, which you clearly are in multiple nodes, but has there been a dip in that? Because I think with highs like you've had, probably from music to whatever, there's always going to be a low. How low that low is depends, but for yourself, has there been any?
Yeah, there's been some lows. I think it was like when I was 20, I moved to America in 2012, 13. and was very much riding high. Was drinking the Kool-Aid. Was like living in Hollywood. Was like, and then I moved to New York, and was very much I'm gonna make a solo record. Blah 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 blah. And I got signed to a big label, and then all of a sudden that album didn't quite do as well. I got involved in a bad relationship, like personal relationship, and so that was like pretty much from like 2020 until a couple of years ago. Yeah, that was like definitely like a huge. I didn't even want to look at a guitar. You know,
Oh, okay.
I haven't released a solo record in 8 years, so I found it very hard to finish things. I think the last 5 years has been tiny violin. You know, like I still get on with it, but it's the last 5 years has been definitely like I feel like I'm just sort of running in quicksand. And only in the last couple of years have I really been able to focus in and really not get distracted, like you said, by exterior things, and really focus in on what I have to do. You know, to become.
Did something change? Did something like flick that switch to get you out of it?
No, I think it was like I had a really bad relationship with someone a few years ago, but then the person I dated after that she's a very clever person, Forbes 30 under 30, and went to Stanford and was very smart and very good at being magnanimous and sort of like practical about things that I was doing in my life that she could identify.
Yeah.
We're not together anymore, but it was like there were certain things where, like in a situation where I would be too invested in something that was not good for me. And she's like, "You've got to vote with your feet, get the hell out of there."
Yeah.
And it was try not to make things too needlessly cool, because I think that's what you do as a musician when you're younger as well. You're like
that phrase.
like everything, you know, needlessly cool. Everything's just like, why am I doing this? It's not, if you're trying to sell ice cream to someone, why do you need to do a brand activation with, you know, Lil Yachty? Like what? And that happens so much. You know what I mean? Just don't make it needless. Make it cool. Make it authentic. Or make it authentic is my biggest thing that I follow these days. So I think it took me a long while to go. I sort of lost myself for a few years, and then coming back, I think I've sort of lent into who I am as a person and really been like, it's fine. I didn't tell anyone I played golf for years because I thought everyone would think I was lame. And now I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I play golf with my mates. I do this and that. And then same with music. I was trying all this stuff. I'm trying to reinvent myself a million times to make albums, and then in the last year, I've started making just straight up like upright bass players. My best friend's an upright bass player. We have a pedal steel player, and I play acoustic guitar, and they're very much like sort of down home folk country-ish songs. And that's the music I was making 20 years ago, but I had to go all the way around the houses to get back to where I am now.
Yeah, if
and realize that's who I am, and that's what makes you feel the best is really leaning into who I am and being not unapologetic. I think I don't like people who are unapologetic, but I think being a bit more going, this is who I am, and I'm completely fine with it.
But a journey you've took it. Sometimes you have to go that journey to realise
who
you were to start with was who you're meant to be, sort of thing. I know it sounds so wishy-washy, but you know what I mean? It's just part of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Sometimes you're thinking, what if? And it distracts you from doing really well what you were doing anyway.
I think the people who live the most fulfilled lives have index higher in authenticity. They're like, this is what I like doing. This is what I love doing. It's like some people can, it's like in my business, in music, some people like reinvent themselves 20 times and for money, not money, probably popularity. And sometimes you can see them finding themselves in the public eye, but sometimes people can smell bullshit. Yeah. You know, not a bit harder to do these days with AI and all that shit, but it's spreads. But I think if you err on the side of authenticity, then it makes it a lot easier.
I think authenticity is going to be the new currency. That is, if you can be, I think a world that just now is say 20% AI and 80% just people, and some of them are not authentic anyway. But then eventually the internet anyway is going to be fucking just internet talking to the internet way.
Yeah. Well, that's like the solo shows I've been doing recently have been like 100 cap, like in someone's living room with a few bottles of wine.
Yeah.
And my friend, and it's my best friend in the whole world, named Mark Early. He lives in Perth. He's an upright bass composer. He's been helping me with this new project, just my solo stuff again. And he's like, you sitting in front of someone 6 feet from them, singing and playing, is going to be the new currency, I think, because as maybe people want more of the AI stuff, but I think that being able to really see someone and feel someone playing music he's basically trying to make you feel better. It's more valuable than you think.
Oh, mate, people are going to
like stop trying to dress it up. You know?
Yeah, I think people are going to crave, and I think you get touches of that just now, like not the last 10 years, not next to minute, where people have started to go back to cabins and small camper vans and all that sort of thing. And even Newtown here in Sydney, that's like notorious for getting old school retro and try to get in touch with the 90s again in 2000. I think now, more than ever, people who used to not really worry about nostalgia or whatever else it is, they're even craving old school stuff. There's, I miss, it was a bit simpler than that. Like, people are starting to wear Walkmans again. They're redesigning Walkmans to where they're not
look at Oasis like this year. It's an interesting nostalgia thing. It's like people just, this is rock and roll.
Yeah.
We forgot what this was about for a little while.
But
But that's what I've been trying to, same thing I'm doing, and same thing. I just wrote an article yesterday for The Fade about how I'm trying to take things away from me to sort of breed authenticity in what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm recording my album with like less than 8 tracks. We're cutting everything live with no overdubs. We film everything live so you can see that I'm playing it live. And it's really distill the idea down into songs and live performance. And on the golf course, I've been playing with half a set of golf clubs to make myself a better shot maker again. So I've been playing with driver, 5-wood, 2, 4, 6, 8 iron, and a couple of wedges and a putter. So I've only got about 10 clubs in my bag. But that way, I'm finding myself in between numbers a lot more. So I have to be a lot more creative with the golf shot, because you don't have. I feel like everything else in life as well. This is what I try to do with The Fade, is try and create like analogies about life and analogies about sports and analogies about creativity and put them together. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think everything that we have on us, whether it's a golf club or a piece of technology, is so single lane specific. We have like my friends who play golf with, they're like, I've got a hybrid for my 180. I've got a driver that goes high, and I've got a 3-wood that goes low.
Specific solution for everything.
Whereas I think what it takes away is it's making us slowly less capable.
Yeah,
that's why I'm trying to take things away from me in the music studio and on the golf course in order to make myself a more proficient musician and golfer.
And the same goes for, I think, for thinking nowadays. Like, I'll have conversations with people, and this is the simplest example. Say you're watching a movie, right? And I'm like, oh, Cam, what's he in again?
Yeah.
It used to be both of us would,
it used to be a discussion.
I would pause it, maybe go like, let's think. Couldn't go on until we watched it. Now it's just like 2 seconds, boom, he's in that, done. MDB it, and it was like done. I know that's a simple thing, but I think even with conversations, we never really think anymore. It's just, I'll just quickly chat GPT it, I'll quickly Google it, I'll quickly, and you've not even had a chance to think. And I think that's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit sad.
I think, that's what I mean. I think that's going to be, I'm starting to do more and more shows where there is like no phones, and I think there's going to be a huge rejection to that. But AI, in that way, you can use it as a tool. Sometimes I use it as like a writing partner.
Yeah, I use it. You'd be mental not to. I use it.
Yeah, like you've got to adapt to a die in a way. But I think there are things that should be kept out of that. And I think people are going to want that. People are going to want to. There's more and more apps and things like this. Help tune off. I'm like, oh, cool. That seems a little antithetical. I've got a phone on my app to help. App on my phone to help me get off my phone. Right. What's going on here? You know what I mean?
No, I think people, again, for the future proofing, let's just call it, is the people who are able to use their own brain and then get AI to enhance what they're already doing, as opposed to getting AI to give you the, or just do everything pretty much, and then just trying you to get out there. I think the people who are very good at what they do and use AI to supercharge it will be the ones who continue to stay at the forefront.
But, yeah.
I was interested to ask you about The Fade. If we bring it back to The Fades,
yes.
What has you've obviously, you're really kind of, it feels like you're very aware of your nitrous situation, which is awesome to hear. And you've mentioned some of the mechanisms you use, or a sauna, and trying to focus on doing something good every day, which is great to see. And what I'd love to know is what started The Fade. Did you, because people ask us the same about our podcast, of why did you start the podcast? Was there a moment where you're like, shit, I need to do something about this? Was it music related and you used golf as a tool to address that? Or is it just about mental?
It was golf related. It was the other way around. It was something about golf. I think the first article I wrote was struggling with my grip, and it was ... on stoicism. And I was reading a lot about stoicism, and I was like, if I can be a better stoic, I'd be a better golfer. If I could be a better golfer, I'd be a better stoic. And I realized there was a lot of cross-pollination between the things that I do. And because I just think that the mental benefits of playing golf, it helped me out of a rut musically, It helped me out of a rut creatively, I should say, musically. First, because I started writing about golf and music and things that I know about. And I found it so easy for myself to, write these 2,000-word articles about golf and music and how they relate. So all of a sudden, it's like, you've just got to start doing something, to create. And all of a sudden now, when I started writing all these articles, I started writing songs again, because I was it's almost like journaling. You're always doing a bit of self-analysis every week. I have this one article that I write that I've put on hold for a while called Word for the Weekend, which is just like a 10-minute read that I put up, and it's got to do with, that's one of them is going to be the one I told you about, limiting my golf clubs in my bag and things like that. But it became a thing where I was so stuck creatively that I had to, reverse engineer it, like start writing in prose again before I could start delivering. There's a really good book by that. It's called The Practice. And I read it. I think the subtitle is Ship Creative Work. Shit. The Practice, sorry. I'm doing exactly what you just told me not to do. Practice. I'll make this point. It's in my book. It's in my ebook, The Practice.
Because going back to Stoicism and, Mark.
Seth Godin, his name.
Seth Godin, he's good. He's a marketing expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question, sorry, I just needed to start delivering work. And I think so that's where it came from. I was like, I'm playing a lot of golf. I understand a lot about golf. And I wrote one article and I was like, oh, that was quite good. So I just started delivering work week after week, and then that helped me feel, you just feel some sort of sense of achievement,
Oh, you
And
got
then
that
it became
outcome
a
as
thing.
well. The outcome, you should like getting, you're writing something, and you got an outcome, and you post it, and you're like, oh, I published that.
Yeah, it's just finishing stuff. And that's what that book's about. It's called Ship Creative Work. You can be, whether your creativity is in finance, whether your creativity is creating media, whether your creativity is painting or anything, you've got it. He makes a really good point about it. It's called shipping it. It means you've got to deliver it. Otherwise it doesn't fucking count,
Yeah.
So I started doing that a lot. And then that helped me and then my mentor in this sort of sports media stuff has been this guy called John Springer, and he ran Nike Golf. 14, he signed Tiger Woods to Nike. Like
Decent mental, that mate.
He's a weapon. Him and Elliot Hill took Nike from 4 billion to 44 billion in 12 years. It's crazy. He's a weapon. So John was like, "You're good at this. You should have your own publication." So that's where the fade sort of came from. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
No, I love that because it's, even when you meditate and things like that, you've got to sometimes clear the space for other things to come in. And I can imagine maybe writer's block or creativity is a little bit like that, where getting out in the golf course, you kind of let all that go, and maybe it allows the space for you to kind of bring things back in.
Like you said, it's outcome based. You got an outcome. I shot 36 today.
Yeah.
You can tick it off. And do you find with blokes, particularly, maybe your fade is not just about blokes, but does the golf course do something to people in terms of walls coming down? They're more vulnerable and likely to share things.
Yeah, it exposes you, because all of a sudden you're thinking, like you said, you start thinking about your capabilities. Like, why can't I hit that shot? I was like, oh man, maybe you should do this. And it depends what kind of golf you're playing. If you're going out there and just doing key bumps and drinking beers, it's a whole different type of golf. You know what I mean? If you're really trying to play the game, all of a sudden you find yourself, you have this bond with the players and like with fellow friends. Like friends of mine who I play golf with, I would never be friends with them. We're really good friends now, but I would never have met them. We bonded.
Yeah, makes sense.
Great. I think on the golf course, definitely you start thinking about, like I said, you've got so much time in between shots, and to think about, well, why can't I do this and when can I do that, and then asking someone else about their life. And I think that's the beautiful social aspect of it, getting to know. And I don't think that's like my friend I told you who has she's a successful businesswoman. She said, I think women sometimes get jealous of that boys have that we have that space to sort of goof around. We plan golf trips and go on them, and it's just about golf, but it ends up being about a whole lot more. That's the
interesting thing with that, though, I think is, and I've been reading about this online a lot, where the modern man nowadays doesn't have, this is maybe why what you're saying in fade is kind of even more important than ever, because having that blokey time is largely waning. And Gary and I are both fathers as well. So you have kids, then you lose that time. But I'm not to say the pub is, but just to use that as an analogy, back in the old days, you go down and you sneak in a couple of pints with the lads and you just chat shit, and you maybe say stupid, sometimes it might sound even misogynistic or whatever, but you just kind of have to offload some of this stuff as a bloke. And we don't have much of that environment anymore. Even in the dressing room, Gary, maybe you can attest this about soccer. It's kind of gone a bit vanilla these days. And
I'm going to say, like, the changing room still, to my opinion, changing room still good. Still good.
Oh, yeah.
Changing room still good. That's still like the best. The changing room's the best.
Yeah. But like, that's what we have after golf. You have it on the veranda. Like we sort of sit around, and there's like, when I went up to Bel Air yesterday, and there's about 30 guys that I know up there, and everyone. I remember one time, my girlfriend came to pick me up from there, and she walked in, and she's just, I'll see you tomorrow. Just because we're just like,
we kind of do that. I know a lot of professionals talk about this, and I wasn't at that level, but I had been like training a lot in soccer my whole life up until I was 38. And then the last 2 years, I've kind of struggled a bit because whilst I do the gym and stuff like that, it's not the same. So that kind of banter, I don't have it in my life anymore. And sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge, and like you're trying to find your place somewhere and whatever it kind of is. I've been ruminating, should I do dancing, or I asked Sue for a microphone for my birthday because I was like, I need a bit of a creative release somewhere, and I don't seem to be getting it right now. But I know we're kind of coming towards the end. I did want to ask you one other thing around connection, and I was thinking about this with you in the lead up, and for all musicians, it must be difficult keeping connection because you're traveling around the world, you're touring, you're in different hotels, you're trying to manage your well-being. But how do you stay connected? Like, you're a WA man. I know you're spending a bit of time back there around Christmas and so forth. Is family big for you? Like, how do you keep connected in the fast-paced life that you've got?
I'm very deliberate about getting in touch with my closest friends like once a week. And I think communication and understanding is the biggest one, and not getting frustrated. I get lonely. I get so lonely when I'm out in the world sometimes. But then I used to find myself, I'd call someone and they're not available. One, they're on a different time zone. Two, they've got a real job. And they're like, so I'd call them and then they would pick up, and then I'd get a bit resentful. And then, or if they would, I've had friends who have been like, oh, Mr. Big Shot now, he doesn't have any time to give me a call anymore. So I'm like, and that just makes me think they're a cunt. Because I'm exhausted. I'm on the other side.
Or do you have people who come out of the woodwork?
Oh, well, man. It's just like there was one guy who used to bully me at school, and as soon as Tame Impala became famous, he was like, hey, come over. I was like,
fuck off.
And I was like, but I think I'm really intentional about, like when I got to New York, I've got a really good friend called Cody, and I called him straight away. As soon as I land, I'm like, what are you doing? He's nothing. I was like, should we go to the pub tonight? I was like, don't bring your girlfriend. I was like, I love her, but I'm just like, let's get some tight, let's get some hang in.
Yeah.
And the other one, like same thing when I get to Perth, I usually catch up with Mark first. And I've got a small family. I see my family, try and catch up with my family once or twice a week. But my friends have very much become my family over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And even the Tame guys, like you said, they said that there's 6 kids in the band now. And there's a lot of moving parts when we're getting Tame together. We still all really love when we can get together and stress a few rehearsals where I was like, oh, the back, because my closest friends are either in Tame Impala or I have a chance to see them when I'm traveling. And man, and I hate to keep harping on about golf, but golf. I literally got a text this morning. Was like, hey man, so I'm coming back to Perth for 2 weeks for 5 days, and my friend called me like, hey, he works in Paris now. We used to live near each other in Los Angeles. And what are you doing next week? I'm like, nothing. He's like, you want to come to New Zealand, play golf with me for 4 days? I'm like, done deal. So then like same thing. We're finishing a tour actually in Dublin. At the end of the tour is in Dublin in May next year. And there's 8 guys coming over, and we're going to go play. Literally, I got a text from Henry this morning. He works in Formula One, and he's got 3 days off. So he was like, let's go Port Monarch, the island, and Royal County Down straight after your show in Dublin. So, let's spend some time on. Yeah. Dock is a big connection.
One as well, Cam. So if you're ever going to do the Formula,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty. It is cool because I think golf. Even my grandpa, he's passed away now, but he used to have a golf trip every year. A lot of his family were English. Obviously, a lot of my family was Scottish. So what would happen was they'd do a Scotland v England every single year for 6 days. Sometimes they go to Portugal, sometimes they do England, sometimes they do wherever. But that ran for 30 odd years, and it got to the point where all the wives just knew that was a thing. So there was never any. It was just a case of they're on a wee golf trip, and they go away for a full week. All the boys, was like 30 of them. Big competitiveness, good banter, a few pints, blah blah blah. But got to travel, and that's the thing with golf. I think it's a cool thing. Is like you can't go. You can go for one round, but you can easily say, "I'm away for 4 days to New Zealand to go and play golf." It's like tremendous, man. What a catch up, as you said, you're on a course. Just you and your mate probably never on your phone for at least 4 hours.
Oh no, that thing. You're not on your phone. You're not on your phone out there. You're just hanging out with each other, talking. You're out
helping each other as well. Aye.
Yeah. So that's the biggest.
That is amazing, man.
I've been harping on about golf this whole time. Like when I get to play music with old friends, and when I get to play golf with old friends, that's probably the best way I do it.
Music must be a bit of a special moment. Like for instance, you're doing your thing, somebody else is doing their thing. Just say us three are all doing jam, like discussing ideas, and then you play something, I play something, and all of a sudden it comes together, and you both sort of think, this is the song.
Magical. It's not even like that because Kevin does a lot of the songwriting in Tame Impala, but we have this song that Kevin's built. Kevin's recorded it. God knows, he usually records at night, so it's some like late night thing that he's created this beautiful song for Tame Impala. Half the fun is when we have to pull it all apart, put it back together, and all of a sudden this song comes to life in the room with 6 guys. So it's something that he sort of wrenched out of his brain and put down onto Ableton or the tape machine or whatever he's recorded it on. The coolest thing we can do is with the Tame Impala guys, okay, what's that synth sound? I'll make it a bit more like this. Cam, you've got this bass. We all learn the parts, and then it counts in, and this song starts.
It's incredible, man.
It only existed it only existed because we don't use any backing tracks, so it only existed on a record, and now we've sort of pulled it out of the record and turned it into a live performance. That's some of the funnest time in my life. Yeah.
You know Damon Albarn, obviously from Blur, who also had this day, I Love the Happy Mondays, and he had Sean Ryder on, you know, that song, It's There. And
Because you know the story behind that he was trying to get his headphones turned up. They were trying to get Sean to do some spoken word.
Yeah.
And he literally was just going, they were trying to get his headphones. He goes, it's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's there. And then, it was like a sound check. It was like a sound check.
And
It's funny. Right before you got on, Gary, I was talking to Sally about this. Because I said, I got a funny Irish. One of the guys in my crew who I've known for 20 years, and I played in pond with him when we were young, and he's one of my oldest friends. His name's Joseph Ryan, and he's from Nina. He's from Tipperary.
Yeah.
And then so the other night, I walked into my dressing room, and someone had told me, but I wasn't sure. I was playing bass in one of the other dressing rooms, so I was sort of just warming up. And they'd told me that this was going to happen, but I still wasn't ready for it. I walked into my dressing room, and Bono and The Edge were in there.
Wow.
And Chris Martin all at the same time. I looked at me and I was just like,
What the fuck?
how's it going? Yeah, I was like, someone fucking get Joe. Someone get Joe. So I was like, who works on the Tame Impala crew now? Like, Joe, fucking, you got to get to our dressing room as fucking quick as you can, brother.
That's what I knew.
The Joe comes in and you just see the look at his face. He don't really know. He didn't say, The Edge is standing there. Yeah, just standing there.
Have you listened to, you said you like folk and all the rest of it. Have you listened to much of Jerry Cinnamon from Scotland?
No, send it over.
Jerry Cinnamon, mate, he's say 6-7 years ago, and his original stuff stemmed from like folk music and all that sort of thing, and he refused to get a record label because for whatever reason, he ended up selling out Hampden Stadium, 100,000 people, like rocked the fucking place, smashed it. Now he's I've sent it to you, mate. I think you'll like him.
14-hour flight.
I think you'll like his stuff. I think he's good. He's very good.
Benji, I'll say, we were talking off camera about my dad's band, not to get all pluggy on this, but they're folk band as well, but they do trad music. But I didn't get to tell you the story why they started it off, Cam. We spoke about the name, and that was like a working class Irish thing where your mum would give you money to go to the shop, and if you had change, you'd have a couple of pennies and you could get enough for all the broken bits of all the other biscuits would be put into a plastic bag, and it was cheap as chips, you know. But the reason why they started, and this is the power of music linking back, that we're coming full circle now with mental health, that his best mate basically lost his daughter to cancer, and he was like, you know, really bad place, and he had two brothers, and they just came together one day in the pub having a few drinks, and they realized they all played musical instruments. My dad plays the guitar, the harmonica, he sings, and they formed this band. So it's three brothers and my dad called the Brothers. And yeah, they're on Spotify, and they do covers like Sweet Child and Mine, but they have their own.
But they do, is it trad? Is it like, because I've been to Ireland quite a few times, and like, you know, like a session, like where you sit around the corner of the pub there. It's like traditional Irish music. Yeah.
He has a residency in the Hard Rock Cafe in Dublin. I went in to see my 3-year-old son at the time there on this year, and it was a real.
I remember I went there. We got, so last time I was in Dublin, or maybe the second last time I was in Dublin, we got straight to the pub. We went to Orion. It's like that place right next to the Guinness factory, and we just started like the fountain. And then like I remember this. I think we were at we'd been to the Brazen Head, and we went to the Stag's Head when this guy behind the bar. Maybe it's the Brazen Head where he did this. Can't remember, Rox. I had about 15 pints that day. But I remember my tour manager came in Australia, you know, they have that thing that's called a wedge, where you drink a half pint. If your boy's already half a pint down, I'll get a midi, you know, and I'll get the next round, because I was like, he literally goes up to this bar, and I think it could have been the Stag's Fair, or I can't remember where it was, but it was somewhere like in the centre of Dublin. He's like, "G'day, mate, how are you?" He's like, "Can I just get a half pint of Guinness, please? And I'll get the next round for the boys." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, we don't serve Guinness in a girl's glass." And then for the rest of the night, when he was drinking pints, we were drinking pints. Would you like some blueberry juice and toffee or pint this time? Like they're just like giving it to him like the rest of the night. He ordered a midi again.
The comedian Frankie Boyle, he says that in Scotland, because a lot of people order a lager shandy.
Frankie Boyle.
So we'll go a lager and a lemon top. So we'll call it a lemon tops. So we'll have a lager lemon tops, a bit of lemonade at the top. We go into Glasgow and say, "Can I have a lager lemon tops?" We go, "Sorry, mate, don't do cocktails."
The Brazen Head is the oldest pub
in Ireland. They say in Dublin, yeah, I think there's an argument with it being the whole of Ireland, but in Dublin, it's the oldest pub that there is. It's amazing. It's funny you mention that because like when my wife came to Ireland the first time, she's Aussie. You know, we went at Christmas time, and I never realised this until you remove yourself and go back. And Christmas time is hectic, and it's probably the same as it, Gary, in Scotland. And yeah, the first time we were like, oh, what do we do? Oh, yeah, like we go down to the pub. I was like, okay, cool. So we got on it, whatever, had a few beers. Next thing he was like, oh, what do we do today? Oh, we got down to the pub, you know, it's a pub day. Okay, cool. And then the third day, she was like, well, what do we do today? It's like, go to the pub. And then she was like, oh, I'm not drinking anymore. And then all the girls were like, are you okay? What, are you pregnant? Or what's wrong? And she's like, no. From piss 3 days in a row. And then for the rest of the, you know, like she stayed at home largely, and everyone was like, "Gee, is everything all right at home?" You know, it was, and we started thinking, "Gosh, yeah, like it was so normalized when you're there being Irish." You know,
She's like, she's not coming to the pub. She's unwell.
she's well. We went. I think it was like the second night when we were putting our head down the pillow. She was like, "Geez, all your girl mates like drink pints." Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? She was like, yeah, they're all on drinking ciders, pints of ciders. And I was like, oh, there's the girls.
Yeah. I love that. That's so funny.
You can't find something about
Cam, I did want to answer one thing just to sort of to bring it to the close. Was, am I right in saying you're going to look at doing like a golf and mental health conversation sort of style thing?
That's
Is that correct?
that's my whole thing. Is like my whole thing is like I'm Cam Avery, and these are conversations that begin with golf.
Oh, cool, very
We
cool.
start there with why and talk, and it's also I'd love to make the fade. I'd love to make it like what if, because I feel like in men's consumerism it's a little bit broken right now. You're either like gambling and drinking on one side and fuck it off, and the other side is sometimes just too much biohacking. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
It's just stick a mushroom up your butt, do an ice bath every 20 minutes. It's way too. It's 90% of the guys are in the middle. Like, I'd love to. How about if you want to be just 20% better at your job, 20% better at golf, 20% better at another sport, 20% a better husband, you know, just trying to find ways that we can start having these conversations. Because more often than not, I find it's easier to, you need to trick men into talking about their feelings. If you start talking about sports, it makes it a little bit easier. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's emotional.
It's like the other day, I was sitting in a board meeting because I was pitching to someone about the fade. And I said, do you guys want to talk about trauma? And they were like, not really, man. Sometimes, you know. And I'm like, well, do you want to listen to an interview I did, you know, I'd say I did with Lance Armstrong about climbing to the top of world cycling after having cancer and then getting found out cheating and having an existential crisis and crashing off the side of, you know, that, and then having to, what it took to just get yourself back up, literally, quote, pun intended, get yourself back on the bike and get your life going again after being in so much trouble. And how does one keep going? And everyone was like, yeah, that'd probably be a really good interview. I'd love to hear about that, you know? Yeah, so if you put sports in the way, we can talk about, like, that's kind of how I feel about with golf as well. Mine's more specifically about golf and music and where they intersect. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. It's got a lot to do with, it's mostly got to do with cognitive health. My thing, yeah. And performance. Like, I've got to get in the gym. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool idea.
Totally right, because I've been in the wellness game. Honestly, that's all you hear. You've got to be the best version of yourself 24/7. Six-pack bikini body. You got to, you know, train 5 times a day. It's not realistic. And most of those people who present that way, I know them, you know, they're fucking miserable, you know, like there's shit going on, they're doing drugs or they're cheating.
I can beat myself behind myself because, like I said, I quit smoking 3 years ago. I'm not going to keep smoking because I've got fucking heart disease. But it was like, my friend was like, have a couple of cigs and enjoy yourself. You know, you're just on 5 weeks of touring and rehearsing. So have a couple of cigs and you'll just stop next week. You know?
I love that because I have a burger analogy. I say, if you want to have a burger, have a fucking burger. But now I'm going to use that ciggy one as well because I'm the same. I don't spill it up.
Cameron Avery's going to work on your mental health and let you off and drink a cigarette.
No, I just felt right. You know, if you're on a music fest or a concert or something like that, you just have a good time and you feel like having a little dairy and you're like, you know what? Like, you feel cooler.
That's right.
Fair. So one thing we always ask Cam to everyone who comes on the show is we just ask them 3 quick questions. And so you can ask the questions, but just literally first quick fire, just one number and then a quick answer.
So Cam, where do you think the world is out of 10 in regard to mental health awareness and why?
I think it's probably at about 8. It's below 5. I think it's below 5 because I just think it's rapidly going down because I think people are constantly trying to I hate to say it because I hate everyone bangs on about social media, but I think people are creating unreal expectations for what they want in their lives because I think it's sort of constant game of one-uppiness. I think social media is great for things like performance. Like my friend's a professional skateboarder, and he said the performance in skateboarding has gone through the roof because you used to have to film a bit, get it on a bit, and then watch that bit and then try and beat that guy's trick. These guys are uploading tricks every day for the game. But whereas the adverse to that is I think people are going like, I need that watch to feel good about myself. I need to look like Kim Kardashian. I think there's a lot to do with also free speech. I don't think people are allowed to say really what they think anymore, which I think vocalizing how you feel about things is the first step. And people aren't allowed to say certain things in certain situations anymore.
Yeah, or even certain countries. We won't name where you are right now, but more careful these days what you say. I feel like we're singing off the same hymn sheet because I believe exactly the same. This constant need to one up yourself, and it's just you'll never be content. You'll never get to
It's good to have ambition, but it's not good to have to when it gets too far and you're just like you say, like I said, creating unrealistic expectations of yourself.
Love it. Okay, the next one is where are you out of 10 in regard to your own mental health right now?
I'm getting better. I went through a section a couple of years ago where it was like 3s and 4s, but I think it's probably about a 6 and 7 now. But I still need to be able to, like I said, it was like what I spoke to my friend. I told you she was really successful. She's a really great, beautiful partner I had. She was like, it's about, you always backslide. Everyone always backslides, but it's about backsliding less every time. If you come up all the way this far, then you go fall way back down here. It's about going here, and you can backslide just back to here, but then you got to keep going and then just limiting that. And it's about self-awareness. So I think I'm becoming more and more self-aware every day, and that's helping me.
That's so true.
Very true. Yeah.
I went on my own journey on mental health for 10 years, and it all started with a 5K coaching thing that I won. And the guy said the same thing. He goes, when you go through your own journey, you get awareness, and you get power and all those things. It doesn't mean you're going to fall back into those traits, but he literally got me to stand up, and he said, you'll be standing here, you'll be going right, then you'll take a step back, whatever that looks like. But now you've taken a step back. All you need to do is take a step forward, and you're back in, in that good space. And meditation is exactly the same. The you use there when you do Vedic is you're in an ocean, and when you meditate, you go down into the depths. Then you have a thought, you come up a little bit, but then you go down again. You focus on your mantra.
Yeah.
And so you're going back up, but then you're going back down. And over time, you're down towards...
I used to live in Florence, and I lived by myself in Florence for a little while. And I found myself doing TM every day. And that was the biggest thing is like, you can get distracted, but you just got to get back to your mantra as quick as you can.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the last one is, if you could recommend just one thing that people could do each day to improve their own mental health, what would that be?
I would say it's about writing things down. One of my friends who's a very mentally strong person, I think it's like, it's not journaling per se, even if it's 4 or 5 things. I do it inadvertently because I write music. Sometimes if I read the lyrics of the song that I wrote 6 months ago, I was like, who the fuck is that guy? I think it's important to write everything down. Like my friend, he writes himself an email every year and tries to complete all of those things as if he's talking, it's like self-talk almost. I think for men, it's harder, but I think writing things down, even on your notes, writing things down that you want to do for the day or not... It's hard for guys to get into the mode of writing how you feel. I find it very easy just because of music. I find it very easy to express myself on whatever media platform. But I think writing things down, I think that's the best thing you can do, is try and find a way of keeping track of how you're feeling, because that way the easiest way to do is reflect and see how far you've fallen or how far you've gone up. I think creating something measurable about what's going on in your brain.
That's interesting you say about guys not being comfortable, right? So it was a guy I interviewed of a football podcast as well, and I was talking to one guy who came on the show, and we didn't know this was going to happen, but he ended up telling a story on the show that he tried to commit suicide the year before. But as he was talking about it, he says that even how bad he was feeling, and he could talk to his mum and dad about how he was feeling after all the stuff that happened, but when he was trying to write it down, he wouldn't even write it on paper how he was feeling. And he said he was doing journaling and he thought he was doing well, but then he looked back pages before and he thought, why am I lying? Why am I lying? No one reads this apart from me.
Exactly. It's a big thing. That's what I always talk about golf. I talk about this in golf, and I talk about this in life. You are the only person that can help yourself. You are the only person. Some people will be able to give you lessons, give you coaches, but you are the only person that can help yourself. Like you can, especially if it comes from, suicide. I have a history of suicide in my family, and I've had a couple of friends commit suicide. And it's like, but in hindsight, if you end up doing talk therapy with someone, I think the best thing you can do is write things down, because then you all of a sudden you're looking at yourself. Like you said, why am I lying to myself? Why am I, it's literally, you've got to just keep staring yourself in the face until it gets better. And so I think writing things down, even on a day-to-day basis, just to find a simple way of measuring how you're feeling every day, and keeping track of it,
Yeah, the other beauty with that is that you're actually letting go of it as well. So like anyone that is listening who's explored their own journey, when you work with coaches of that, like, I had to do all that confronting bullies from when I was a kid and writing letters and things like that, which I originally think, oh, that's a load of naff, but it is a sense of letting go. And that was a big thing, a real light bulb moment for me, because I tried to fix people in my own family and things like that, which you just kind of, but by having those journals and writing things down, you're letting it go, because otherwise you're just retaining that. And I did a big facial thing the other day with one of our practitioners here in Nimbus, and I was blown away. Like afterwards, she said, oh, how do you feel? And it fucking knocked me for 48 hours. I was like contemplating life, not in terms of taking my life, more just what am I doing? Where am I at? What am I happy? Am I sad? And that was just because she said I was just holding all this emotional stuff in my jaw,
Yeah.
You don't journal, it's like it has to go somewhere. All those emotions have to go somewhere. And if you don't release them regularly, they go into your back. They even seep into your DNA. It's been proven.
That's what I mean. You've got to, that's what I mean. I'm very fortunate in the sense that I get to release a lot of emotion in music every so often when I'm playing a gig or writing a song. And, but yeah, so I think it's important to, like, man, I read lyrics that I wrote 8 years ago. I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'm not that guy anymore. But I think in one way or another, that's me keeping track of like how I'm feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a journal almost, like in some form.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so obviously people know where to find Tame Impala and all the rest of it because of class, but what about Sports Fade and the golf?
The Fade I'm on Instagram is just a handle. There's just the Fade.
Yep.
And then there's a website, thefade.com, be coming probably, I want to say February next year.
Yep.
I also have a Substack, a weekly Substack. It's called Work for the Fade.
Yeah, okay, I'll
follow that. And you can find that all on my Instagram social media channels right now. We're going to be expanding that rapidly if I can hire the right people in the next few weeks.
Yep, beautiful. Good, mate. That sounds good. Sounds like a cool thing, mate. I'll definitely follow it. Definitely sounds good.
Listen, man, I had a great time. I just want to say thanks. I had a great time today. Let's do this again when I'm going to be in Sydney in about 3 weeks. So let's catch up.
If your patience is good, maybe Gary and I could join you on the golf course. And
mate, let's go. Let's go. We can go play that shorties course. My friend owns that shorty course out by the coast. Let's go play.
Aye, brilliant, mate. I was going to say, have you been to Sully? You said you like saunas. Have you been to Nimbus?
No, man. Let's get in the steam room. Same with you, Gary. I'd love to hit the gym when I'm there.
Definitely.
And I love the sauna.
I know you're planning some sets and DJ stuff, and we might try and line up a bit of it kind of become a thing now. This kind of, the coffee raves and morning wellness raves and things like that. But we are looking at maybe doing something in Byron. Yeah, if you're around, and a bit of a breath work kind of Pilates.
Yeah, I've never done any breath work, so I'm open to it.
Oh, aye, very cool.
I'm a qualified breathwork coach, so comes to the right man.
Right, mate. I obviously got a big long flight ahead of you, mate. So honestly, really appreciate it. Had a great time, mate. Brilliant day.
Man, thank you guys. It was a legendary. I had a lot of fun. Let's stay in touch, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, mate. All the best, mate. Take care.
Okay, boys.
Cheers, mate.